E.F. Codd was working at an IBM research facility in San Jose, California in 1970 when he published his pioneering paper, A Relational Model of Data for Large Shared Data Banks. This paper appeared in the premier academic journal of computer science, the Communications of the Association for Computing Machinery, or just the CACM. Don't we love our acronyms? Codd's colleagues, Don Chamberlain and Ray Boyce, designed several computer languages expressly to implement Codd's ideas for working with data. In 1974, they settled on the language they called Structured Query Language, also called SQL, which may also be pronounced SQL, another acronym. Codd's paper is the basis of Relational Database Management Systems, or RDBMSs. SQL was especially made to work with RDBMSs. Nearly all of the popular database systems since the 1980s are relational systems, and nearly all of those use SQL as their primary language. Some examples of SQL-based relational systems are Oracle, SQL Server, MySQL, DB2, PostgreSQL, Microsoft Access, and SQLite. Note, the big data era has seen the rise of other types of databases called NoSQL databases. That is a topic for later in this course. A great thing about SQL is that it's so simple and easy to learn. All 4 of the database activities from the previous video have their own simple commands in SQL. The holding areas for different kinds of data in SQL are called tables. When you design your database, you set up different tables for different kinds of data. There are simple commands or statements to create a table, change what types of records the table will hold, or discard the table from your database. The SQL commands for these are simply enough: create, alter, and drop. These commands cover the activity of designing, or more accurately defining, your database. And together, they form a category of SQL commands called Data Definition Language, or DDL. Don't be intimidated by the word language in the label Data Definition Language. It's just a category of SQL commands that perform one of the 4 activities I've already identified for a database management system. The next activity you want to perform is to update the data in your database. You want to add records to tables, change some of the data in those records, and remove records. The SQL commands for those actions are insert, update, and delete, and they form the SQL category of Data Manipulation Language, or DML. Of course, once you've set up your tables and have put some data into your database, you can do one of the main things people do with data. You can ask questions about it. The select statement is the superstar of SQL commands. It is the one command in SQL for asking questions and getting answers out of your database. The select statement is so important that it has its own category all by itself, the Data Query Language category, or DQL. Finally, to have different users with different roles use your database, you can use the SQL statements grant and revoke in the category of Data Control Language, or DCL. You can use the grant statement to create a user account or give a user certain privileges in your database. Revoke can remove a privilege that was previously granted. For instance, you might want your users Natasha and Talia to be able to see and change what's in the employee table, while user Daniel can only see what's in the table, and user Meg shouldn't see the employee table at all. The grant and revoke commands give you simple ways to manage these different kinds of access. Now you know the 4 general types of database activities and the basic SQL commands for them. The order of the statements given here has some meaning. You must create a table before you can put any data into it, and then you must put data into the table before you can query it. However, if you go by how often you will use these statements, it's a different order. Selects are what you will do the most often by far. DML statements take second place, and DDL and DCL may be fairly rare. So here you have the most fundamental SQL statements and their categories. I suggest that you make sure you are familiar with these terms. If they are new to you, you may want to copy this list out by hand and look at it often for a few days. Remind yourself of the meanings of these terms until you can use them all comfortably in conversation. Please see the reading this week with a few special notes about SQL.